Hi, I'm disability lawyer David Brannon. In this video, I'm going to answer a very common question that we get. Can I leave Canada while receiving long-term disability benefits? So by the end of this video, you'll know the rules around when you can and cannot leave the country while receiving long-term disability benefits so you can avoid any problems that may come your way if you do. Now, if you like this video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you'll hear about our videos that come out once or twice a week. So can you leave Canada while receiving long-term disability benefits? The answer will really depend on your policy. Now, it's important to know that most insurance policies do have travel limitations. So you should expect that there's going to be some type of limitation on travel, although I have seen some policies that are silent on it altogether. The travel limitations usually come up near the back of the section on your long-term disability. So if you have a group benefits plan, these travel restrictions will be in there, usually under the term like general limitations or something like that. They'll set out a list of things that you kind of can't do or things that will cause the disability benefits to end. And usually within that list, there is travel, some type of a travel statement. Now, the wording of the travel can be different. And that's why it's important to see how it's exactly worded in your policy. Some policies are very specific and they can say no travel whatsoever. However, most will give some type of limited ability to travel. For example, some policies will say you have to be within Canada at least 6 out of any 12-month period. Okay, that gives you a little more flexibility. Other policies will say that no travel is permitted beyond 4 months outside of Canada unless prior approval from the insurance company. You have to really look and see how the policy is worded. Now, the second part of this is really the travel is not going to remove other obligations you have under the policy. So even though you're traveling and you're going to be out of the country, you still have an ongoing obligation to communicate with the insurance company, to continue your treatment, and things like that. So this is where insurance companies get concerned. They're worried that if people travel, there's not going to be a continuation of their medical treatment or a disruption of the treatment, and that's where you're going to get a lot of pushback. Insurance companies do not like it when people travel on vacations if they're receiving long-term disability. Again, it's not appropriate that they feel that way, but they will often view this as just like, oh, here we go. They're well enough to go on this trip, but they can't work. Like there's just a lot of bad feelings about this within the insurance company, usually not warranted, because just because you can travel doesn't mean you can do your job, right? But the timing of the travel can cause a lot of problems. So if this is a pre-planned vacation and your long-term disability hasn't even been approved yet, you're still in the middle of getting treatment, not a good time to take a trip, even if it's pre-planned. The insurance company is not going to look very well on that. Like, if there's any type of disruption in your treatment, you have to consider maybe canceling that trip if your goal is to get your long-term disability approved. They need to know that you're committed on your treatment and that's what the focus is. And if you're just going on this trip right around when everything is getting started and they haven't even approved the claim yet, you're asking for trouble. Now, you still can go. There's no rule to say you can't, but you would really need to set this up with your doctor, I always tell anyone who's going to travel, get your doctor, write a report to the insurance company. You take the initiative and do that. And that report can set out saying that this will not disrupt your treatment. Here's the things we're going to do to make sure a continuity of care happens during this trip, that this trip is going to be beneficial for your mental health or will be helpful in some way. That kind of thing can go a long way to help make sure that your benefits are not cut off while you're traveling. So the last thing to know is don't try to fudge around with this thing. If you are going to be out of Canada longer than allowed by the insurance company's rules in the policy, just be upfront with them about it. Maybe you'll be able to work it out. Maybe they'll extend it, especially if your doctors can show that there's going to be treatment and things like that. Don't fall into this delusion where you're deluding yourself into thinking because you keep a residence in Canada that really, you must be still a resident there. Like I've seen people convince themselves of a lot of things, but it won't work, okay? So don't get caught up in that. It's very easy for them to figure out if you've been out of the country and when you came back. They'll just ask for your flight and travel records. So it's very easy to figure that out. So just don't get yourself into that mess. So there you have it. You now have a general idea of the rules around travel. Most travel has restrictions under these insurance policies, and so you have to read your policy. Don't get mixed up in trying to sneak around and not tell the insurance company. Be very upfront with them. Be proactive in getting them information, and they may even extend the time that you're allowed to stay out there. Now, if you want to learn more information, just check out our information down below. We have free guides and books, and there's links for those downloads.